You don't have an identity. Your identity has you. Hear me out. When we speak of identity, we tend to speak of it as something that we possess, something that we collect or we sort of create like items. But the reality is, identity does not belong to you. You belong to an identity, right? We sort of make claims that consolidate a defined image or characteristic of who we claim to be. We call it personality or our character. This is who we are. But in truth, it's not who you are, it's who you've become, right? Even when you think that you've done the work, it's still who you've become. I mean, think about it. Your thoughts don't arise neutrally. There is something that powers your thought. It doesn't arise then get filtered through your identity, right? It emerges already shaped through your frame, already shaped through your identity map. So your identity is in the truth of who you are, no matter how pure, pristine it seems. It's not the complete fullness of who you could be, whether you think that is something that you've consciously created or created, because often we think that when we've done the work, the inner work, personal development, and all of those optimization tactics, that the identity that emerges from our creation in that moment is who we are, but it isn't. It's simply perspective based on where you are and what's necessary. It's relevance given your current context. Your identity is how you recognize yourself and how you are recognized in return. It is not your essence, even when you feel like it's much more connected to who you are. So the idea that your identity is who you are is a lie. It's really who you've become. It's really who you've become, connected to the you that's being unveiled currently, because it makes the most sense under present conditions, right? Under your current reality and context. However, as these conditions start to change, it becomes necessary for you to evolve, the identity would need to die and be reborn. It's why you could be a new mom, yet wonder why, though you're excited about your new baby, you can't help but feel like a part of you is lost. It's not necessarily lost. It's that another part of you is simply just emerged, and its newness seems to overpower the reality of your multidimensionality. So our multidimensional self is what we don't really have capacity to hold, because we live in a world of this or that, not this and that. You see that? So identity is shaped by an ever shifting, take note, that's the key word, an ever shifting interplay of your memory, of meaning, what you find meaningful, and of necessity, right? Basically, what you consider necessary. It's why I believe that the idea of free will is quite paradoxical. It's ironic, because if it's in fact free, what undergirds what's being willed? Yes, you're willing it, but through what mechanism? What defines how you engage and why? How are you arriving at your conclusions? Do you see? If it's in fact free will, then it would exist outside the conditions that shape it, but it doesn't. So, how is it free will? The things that you notice, the interpretations that you make, even the interpretation you are having now, the translation that you are getting from what you're listening to, as you're listening to me right now, is happening within your frame, right? In the organizing field of your identity. But because you're the one experiencing and expressing this, you would assume that you're in full control, because it feels like you are, but not necessarily until you step into certain threshold moments or transition points that sort of questions and disrupt everything that you claim to know and believe about yourself. Then you will understand what I'm talking about here. The challenge here would not be the clarity you think you need or whatever indicators that seem to be loud, but really it's going to be the attachment and supposed loyalty that you had to who you genuinely believe that you were. And it's important to recognize that it's totally okay to experience this. Only that for most people, this sort of turns into a spiral because they think that they are losing their identity. But it was never theirs to lose in the first place. Your identity is not yours to lose in the first place. It functions in service to what was necessary And when it needs new form and its own rite of passage into its next iteration, you've got to let it go. You've got to recognize when its time has come to an end, and you let it go. Do you see? Your identity does not belong to you. You belong to it. And if you don't understand this, you would struggle to create the specific outcomes that fit your intended reality, because your possibility window would be narrowed to only see within the constraint of whatever identity holds you per time. So you've got to recognize that you're not the one who has the identity. The identity is what actually has you. Listen, the map is not the territory, right? When you have access to a map, you would realize that it's only a reduction of what the territory should be. The relevance for that map is really ease and navigation, not accuracy. Because, for example, the woman that sells, say, toiletries down your street would not exist in your map, but she's in that territory. The car wash in your environment is in that environment but will not be present in the map. In the same way, your identity is the map of yourself, but it's not you. It's a reduction, it's a simplification that makes it easier for you to navigate life, but does not in any way capture the fullness, the weight, and the expanse of who you are and what you're capable of. Where it becomes problematic and challenging is when you think that the map is a territory, that the limited version of yourself, the one with this specific strength, this specific quirks, these weaknesses, these triggers, these patterns, these current desires is all there is, and there is nothing else that could be. Or when you think that by extension, the definition that you've given to how you show up in the world through your work is all that there is, then you start to live your life within those mapped boundaries, as if they are real walls, as if they are real definitions. I have come to even recognize that what makes us feel like we are most confused or most stuck when we are at certain inflection point is not necessarily the fear of the unknown. It is the release of who we know we are. Is the release of what is familiar. Is because we've been so identified with what is that we fear releasing ourselves from its grip, because you've defined yourself as this is all I am. And then we wonder, why can't I see the result that I want to see? Because the result that you want to see is not congruent or coherent to the identity that currently holds you. So you have to be able to step out of that identity and embrace who you are. Because guess what? The unknown, no matter how disruptive it seems, would never offer you anything other than yourself. It's simply a revelation of who you are at a much more deeper level. So the fear is not the fear of the unknown. It's really the fear of the known. Now, there is this story that I find fascinating, and my husband shared it with me some time ago. It's about what's his name now? I think it's Michael Dapper, right? But he's somebody that a lot of people listening to me now, you would know him as Big Shark, right? I'm going to attach his video so that you're going to see Big Shark. Now, Big Shark was Michael's fictional rap character. That is, he created that character, just the way people do skits, and he started doing this thing, man's not hot, never hot, and all of this, and it blew up globally. Everybody knew Big Shark. I did not even know his name was Michael until, my husband was sharing that story with me, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm trying to say to these guys. Now, Michael got so popular with that character that everyone just wanted him to be Big Shark. You would even find interviews where it seemed playful, but he was minimized to just hold on and fit into the constraint of that avatar that he has created, into the constraint of that identity. If you're familiar with my work, I call this the ego constructed avatar. But that's not necessarily what I'm talking about here. They wanted him to just be Big Shark. You can't go back from this. Even though he was Michael, right? And he wanted to transcend that. Like that was just, it's just like you have, skits makers who have these ideas that alter ego that they express from time to time, and you're saying we've accepted your alter ego, let your real personality and the real person that you really, the person that you truly are, let that person, sit, right? And it was a fascinating story to hear, because that's exactly how we think, and that's exactly what goes on in our mind, why we tend to see certain transitions or certain pivotal moments in our life as, this disruptive, this tough crossroads, this tough, precipice to cross. It's really the fear of shedding not just what we know ourselves as, but what others have defined and accepted us as. So, somebody who, for example, has come to a point in their business, their brand, or their vision, and it's time for you to pivot. The reason why you keep holding on to the same product, the same way of doing things, it's simply because everybody has known me as this person. If I come out and say this is who I am now, or if I should start to orchestrate, a rebrand, will people still recognize me? Will people still buy from me? Now there's a whole strategy around that, but this conversation is not strategy. It's to speak to the liminality that is going on in your mind, to speak to that intangible experience. Because here's what's actually important for you to note, and it is that you have infinite territory. You're boundless. Your actual capacity, your genius, your potential for expression, it exists far beyond any map you or anyone else has drawn of you. Whether you are one thing or the other, the defined map is not the whole territory. I remember reading something the other day on Substack, and the person wrote something around the lines of, "We're all not coming out of life alive, right? So you better reinvent yourself as many times as necessary. When you reckon that who you've known yourself to be can no longer carry the weight of what is necessary for your next level, you've got to let it go. You've got to understand that there is enough space for you to expand and to reconstitute yourself. Who you truly are is the whole territory, and it contains all of you, every possibility, every potential, every way of being. But because we simply navigate by the map without really exploring the territory, we never really discover what else is there. It's also why we get blinded to the options that exist and the possibilities that are bound for us. And so you may have gotten to a point in your career where you feel like, okay, I'm done working, I need to retire, but you're asking yourself, what options exist for me? Now, because you have perpetually been fixated on the map for so long, it's going to be difficult to see the whole territory. Do you see? It's going to be difficult to see the whole territory. When you recognize that you are a being of boundless potential, of fluid energy, you get to define how that essence expresses itself, how it finds form, and how it moves in the world. This is why breakthrough moments for a lot of us feel shocking. It's not because something new suddenly appeared, but because you accidentally wandered away from your familiar map and you discover territory that was always there. So you think, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Wow, so I could do that. I did not know that was even possible. But the truth is, your identity map just did not include it. It was always in the territory. There's a reason why I always advocate for people to tend to their curiosities, right? I created a genius expression matrix just sort of to help visionaries and thought leaders to define what vision they need to build out, how to express their work and allow their genius find expression. And a very significant part of that matrix is what I refer to as creative sparks. Now, creative spark really is paying attention to those inner nudge, those little interests and curiosities. You don't need to build an institution out of it. You don't need to start a brand out of it. It's for you. It's such that you can explore your territory, because you don't know how capable you are until you find out. And look at you just sitting within the corner of a predefined container where you feel this is my design, this is who I am. It's not who you are. It's not who you are. There is still more that you can be. There is still the depth of who you could be. The version of you that wants what you want at the highest level currently exists. It's the fact that you can think it, the fact that you can desire it. It's a possibility within your territory. You just need to find the map for that identity. So you're not the map. You never will. You never will be. You are the vast, unmapped territory that no single identity could ever fully contain. Your genius, it lives in this untapped territory. It exists in the space between what you think you are and what you actually are. And every time you surprise yourself, every time something flows through you that doesn't match your self concept, every time you catch a glimpse of capabilities that you did not know that you had, that's your territory announcing itself beyond the confines of your map. That's it clocking in and saying, present, I'm here. You see, that's how you progressively master your genius. So listen, guys, the freedom that you're looking for, it's not in perfecting your map. It's not in trying to optimize your current map. It is in remembering that you are the territory. It is in recognizing that for you to think it, the map for that specific identity exists. And I simply need to shift into that frame and function from that reality.